thank you so much for joining me for this yoga session. Make sure you have all the things you need to support yourself, a yoga mat, blankets for comfort, blocks to help with support, something to drink, and plenty of time for you to enjoy this yoga practice. So let yourself settle in on your breath. Your legs don't have to be tucked up near you. You can always have them at the big bend in front of you, letting your eyes close if that is comfortable. If not, you just have a slight gaze a few feet in front of you. And trying to keep your awareness on your breath. So actively, intentionally setting aside all the things in your life, all the things in the world, right at the threshold of the room or structure or space that you're in, even if it's just something that you have to imagine, which you're, of course you're doing, right? Because you're imagining leaving all these things in your head, just like they say, like baggage, you can think they're in, suitcases, if that helps you. Leave them outside, and the next 45 minutes is all about you and your breath. Really try to stay focused on right here, right now, in the present moment. So the breath is getting fuller and deeper. Start to do that 3-part yoga breath. You fill up the lower third, then the middle third, then the upper third, and then release fully, upper, middle, lower. Always making sure that your legs are comfortable, your body's comfortable. If you need to lean against something to feel supported, if you need to rearrange your legs, take time to do that. Especially don't let any tingly toes happen. Feel yourself engaged. Stay with that engagement of your whole self and let that breath be as full as feels good. And you can let your body get involved a little bit more. You can, on the lower third of your lungs filling up, press your navel into the space in front of you, and then the middle third of your lungs fill up, your ribs move up and apart, and then you feel the breath enter into the upper third, and you can feel your heart lift up in your chest. And then when you exhale, your heart and chest relax down, your ribs move down and together, and then you gently pull that navel back and up into your body. And then the inhale happens again, and you fill up navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. And let that be what you are paying attention to, what you are becoming obsessed with. Really trying to set aside all the distractions of your life and just be with your breath. And if you find it particularly hard, maybe even so hard that you think it'll never be attainable, I want you to be kind and compassionate with yourself, right? That's exactly how everyone feels. That's exactly the experience everyone has. It's when you make the commitment to the a little bit of effort over and over, it starts to pay off and you start to see how, right, you can get it and you potentially are getting it. Press yourself down into your mat. You can bring a squeeze, like a gentle tilt of your pelvis so your glutes come down, your hip flexors pull up, your knees press away, your feet flex, and you feel that support of your whole self. And from then the center of you, right there at that navel, not only are you pressing down, but I also want you to lift up and stretch and take up all that space around you that you are meant to take up. And so this is where the upper girdle gets involved, the heart lifts up in the chest. You pull those blades gently down and they're active. They're not squeezed together with that any crease. It's just a gentle pull down into place. It took me a long time or a while, and I had to practice to pull those shoulder blades so they didn't wing out. So you play around with that engagement in your body. When you first start it, if you're not used to it, it feels weird and awkward. Keep practicing and it feels like how you're supposed to stand and sit and be. Remember, you're always in charge of that extra little engagement that I suggest letting yourself relax into your natural state, right? It's not all engagement, it's relaxing into your natural state as well in order for you to feel the effects. Keeping that awareness on your body, lifting yourself up into the space around you. Your hands can come to your heart. You can gently bow, and if you'd like to offer any intention to the practice, whether it be something I've spoken about or some personal intention or a combination, let yourself just be with 3 big, full, deep breaths. And then when your 3rd breath has come and gone, you can let your eyes crack open if they were shut. You can, if you're right up against a wall or a piece of furniture, move away. I'm sitting up on a blanket, so I'm actually going to bring that to the side and just have one blanket underneath me. And we're going to wake up from that seated position. So depending on how comfortable you find sitting cross-legged on your mat, if that's how you're choosing to show up, because there's all kinds of different ways. You might need to have a little reset posture. I'm assuming every position probably needs that little reset. Stay up off your limbs. Keep your heart lifted. Keep pulling down that back body. And don't hyperextend those elbows. I'm over exaggerating with my limbs a lot, so I bring attention to them so you can start to see, oh yeah, what am I doing with my elbows? After a couple breaths side to side, you're eventually going to find yourself in that comfortable seated position. Doesn't matter how your legs are, but try to find that supported base so you're tipping that pelvis, pulling it into place. I feel my navel lifting up a little bit. I'm pulling down my glutes a little bit. I've got my feet flexed and my legs engaged. My hands are just gently on my legs. And I'm going to start to make some circles with that body, that upper body right there at that hip joint, that upper hip joint. So you're stretching and lengthening the whole trunk up out of that lower girdle. The upper girdle is what is gently lifting up out of that lower girdle. So going around, and your hands can also be at the side. You're not holding on for dear life. I want you to have that gentle touch. Eventually you're going to pause. Doesn't matter where you are, if you're to a side, to the front, to the back. Let yourself move around. And so I want you to try to keep yourself nice and lifted. You're not really coming into, which sometimes it's easy to, and I'm going to show you how I'm pulling into kind of like a cow position or a cat position, I mean. So let yourself move around in those rotations a few times. Of course you can do what you want, but I'm trying to get you to feel that separation of your lower and upper body, inhaling and exhaling. I'm trying to get you to feel that lift of that upper girdle up out of that lower girdle. I'm trying to get you to pay attention to all of it. It's not made up stuff. It's stuff that's really happening in your body, and you have total control over it. And that little bit of engagement, I really do think, helps to keep you upright and mobile and aware of how you hold yourself. So back into just that comfortable position. So if you have to rearrange your legs, please take time to do that. You might want to bring some blocks. We're doing that same kind of idea where I want you to engage that lower body. It's up to you how you want to reach your arms, keeping those shoulders out of your ears so it can be wide. If that's really not your style, you can also go and lift right up. And you also don't have to do any of that. You can just keep your hands, because what we're going to do is that it's a bent-legged row, and it's a few lifts and reaches with those arms, reaching any way that feels good. Remember, it doesn't have to be wide. I want you to keep the girdle engaged no matter what you choose, but you can change your mind too halfway through, just so you can feel all the different ways. And like the lower one, it's just that little row. Letting yourself breathe full and deep. And then eventually you're going to be done with the row and you're going to pause. And this is where the blocks. I want you to keep pressing down with that back body. Keep lifting with that front body. So that back body and lower body. So this is where you're engaging those feet, trying to press down with those knees, flexing those feet. You get that nice solid base and then that upper body. And as you breathe here, you might get a little bit lower, a little bit deeper into the stretch. I don't want you to go too far. I want it to be a hurt so good. You're protecting your knees. If this hurts your knees, you're bringing your legs into the place that feel good to you. So sometimes that butterfly is the place. And then let yourself lift up a little bit and walk over to trying to keep those girdles engaged, trying to keep those, pulling down those back bodies. So maybe you don't walk around so much to the side, and that's okay. Hopefully you feel the stretch better, and it's a better stretch because it's right where it needs to be, and you're not hurting yourself as you do that. Bring yourself through center. Remember, if you're really far forward, you don't have to be. You can lift yourself up, always protecting those elbows, never hyperextending, always protecting the delicate fingers. Make sure you're aware of those legs, really, whatever side you're reaching, you're pulling down with that opposite glute, and then once again, bring yourself back through center to lift into that space. I want you to bring those legs into that windshield wiper position, and then take your time to come around onto those hands and knees and coming to your child, walking those legs as far apart as feels good. I've got a blanket down for my knees. I always am protecting myself. Inhale and exhale. You can reach your arms forward or back. If you're reaching your arms forward, remember you're not hyperextending those elbows. And if you are using blocks, you would think the blocks wouldn't do what they do, but the blocks actually add more engagement. I know that people think sometimes that the blocks are a cheat, which I just do not get, but that's me. I want you to use the block at your advantage and let it help you. All right, you're going to bring yourself up into your stable table. So now your knees come right underneath your hips, your hands come right underneath those shoulders, and you are engaging, not hyperextending those elbows, keeping those fingers spread wide and keeping the weight on the ball of the hand so your wrist doesn't bear all the weight. And then let yourself do that teeny tiny cat and cow. This is just a teeny tiny pelvic tilt to find yourself in that place of support. It's pulling down the back body, lifting the front body, and then you're going to pull those shoulders out of your ears and then pull those shoulders together. So here you are creasing them and then uncreasing, creasing, uncreasing, and leave them uncreased. This is your girdles engaged. Cat and cow then happens in that middle back. So your whole body is moving, but the epicenter is that middle back. It is not your lower back. It is not your upper back. I wanted you to lock those girdles. Those are hyper flexible places in your body. They move around all the time. I want you to start trying to focus into that middle back. So you put the movement there. You're pressing evenly in your upper body and your lower body. Pay attention to that. How does it feel between your right arm and your left arm, starting at your chest? Keeping those shoulders out of your ears. Eventually you're going to be done with the movement. That awareness and holding yourself, it's taxing. This is where I want you to relax. You're still gently pulling down the back body and lifting the front body. I think you're always doing that all the time, whether you know it or not. I'm just trying to get you to concentrate on it and be aware of how you're pulling back into a child. You're resting, but you're still in some sort of awareness of holding yourself, right? Because you're conscious right now, right? Hopefully you're conscious. You're conscious in this moment. So taking advantage of this conscious moment, how you can be fully aware of your whole self. And I like to think of it as starting, like it's like the awareness starts at your navel. It's not the thoughts you think. It's not up here in your head. It starts at your navel and it spreads out from there. It spreads down. It spreads up. It spreads right. It spreads left. It spreads all the directions. Lifting yourself back up into that stable table. Make sure you go through that engagement, teeny tiny cat and cow with that lower pelvic girdle. When I pull into that place of support, pulling that back body down, lifting that front body, I feel this wonderful stretch and engagement, and then pulling that upper body girdle into place, crease together, pull apart, and then I got that upper girdle engaged. You've got your elbows not hyperextended. Here's where you're going to play around with sending that left leg back, so you're going to come onto 3 limbs. I should have said, make sure you don't kick anything. So you've got nothing behind you. You're pressing back through that left heel. Let yourself breathe full and deep. Only if it serves you. Reach that right arm like you're going to shake someone's hand. So don't let your shoulder girdle disengage. Pay attention to that left foot. Is it pointing down to the floor? And pull that kneecap up into your thigh. Your leg does not have to be perfectly straight. Inhale and exhale, and then you're going to come down. Let yourself rest completely. I led left arm, right. I led left leg, right arm. So if you did something different than left leg, right arm, just make sure you manage that. I'm gently winding my wrists around so I get that blood flow, no matter how much awareness you have and how much lift you're performing from the inside. And that's another thing, I had to learn that, and I'm hoping that my reiteration of it over and over is helping you learn and remember it as well. You still feel it on your wrists. All right, back into that table position. Remember, you got to have room behind you. I want you to keep your girdles engaged. I'm trying to get it to a place where it's just an automatic thing. No hyperextension. You pull that back body down. You lift that front body. And now, keeping that girdle engaged, you're just sending that right leg back. Keep pointing the right toes down. So pay attention to what that right leg is doing. Is it toes pointing and the leg is lifting and the hips coming out of the socket? Then gently pull down, pressing through that heel. So you are staying in that locked girdle position, keeping that upper girdle position locked as well. If you decide to reach with that left arm, inhale and exhale. This is a great big stretch. You're holding yourself right there behind the navel. Keep breathing. Inhale and exhale. And then let yourself come down and rest completely. I'm trying to get you to pay attention not only to your navel in the front of your body, but then the dimples in the back of your body. Every other mammal in the world uses their butt, their tail, in order to balance and move around. We don't know how to do that. Nobody teaches you how to do that. So hopefully you're starting to feel how it's a whole thing, right? But then it works separately, and how sometimes half of it is mobile and moving you forward, and then the other half is stable, all right? And it's working in conjunction. It's stabilizing, and then you're moving. And that's what's the marvelous thing about your body. All right, staying with that engagement in that table position, only if it suits you do you curl your toes. So make sure you've got that back body pulled down, that front body pulled up. No hyperextension of those elbows as you lift yourself into your downward dog. Make sure you don't hyperextend elbows. Make sure you keep your knees nice and bent. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. Play around with coming up and stretching on your toes, but then I want you to settle back on the balls. You are always, I can always lift my toes a little bit away from the floor. So you might need to bring your stance in a little bit for that to happen, and that's okay. Because what this is a hinge. That's what you're doing. You're practicing a hinge. Keep lifting that heart. Keep pulling that tail down, dropping to your knees at any time if you want to step up that way. But stay with that engagement of how you're holding yourself, or you're walking up from your downward dog. And we're going to come into that forward fold. Inhale and exhale. Breathe full and deep. I want you to spend a few breaths pulling those kneecaps up into your thighs, keeping those knees really, really bent, and then moving however feels good to you. Protect so you do not hurt yourself. This should be a hurt so good feeling. Inhale and exhale. I know this pose it's one of those ones too that took a while for me to get used to. All right, back into just that steady forward fold. Put that weight in your back body. Use whatever support you want to. You're going to inhale halfway into that flat back. Keep those knees bent. That helps. I want you to then exhale, hinge into that forward fold. Use the support. Inhale halfway into that flat back. Exhale, hinge down for the floor. The third time, you can either come up in that great big reverse swan dive if you feel so inclined, or if you want to come up in steps halfway up and then press yourself up to then stand. And if you get here and you think, yeah, I want to reach, then keep those girdles engaged. And you're always keeping the girdles engaged no matter what choice you made. reaching into as much back bend as feels good, and then finding yourself standing in your mountain posture, breathing full and deep. And I'm going to take a layer off. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself and stripping off what you need to, but have it close, because when we get to relaxation, and there'll be relaxation, you'll want to probably put your sleeves and your socks back on. And that's another thing. If I, of course I can't see you out there, but if you are still wearing your socks when you practice yoga, if you can, if it's just, I don't know whatever reason, but if, of course, if you really can't, I don't want to say you have to take them off, but if it's just because you just haven't done it and you can take your socks off, try it. It's amazing. It's so much better. And this is where we're coming into that mountain. You can feel yourself really engaged with those balls and those heels. That's what everyone's doing, whether they have socks on or not. You are finding that tripod, the four corners of under the big toe and the little toe and then the heel. And then you are lifting your digits at that ball and trying to lift them away from your foot and then bringing them forward for a nice gentle stretch to then gently grip on the mat. Your toes do nothing ever. They're just there to look pretty. And that's all the time, not just yoga. Kneecaps up into your thighs, and then you engage that lower girdle. Pull that back body down. Lift that front body. Everything comes into place. It's not just muscle. It is muscle engagement, but it's also muscle and framework, where you are engaging that navel dimples down. You are supported and in that protected, supported position. And then navel dimples up. You should feel light. It should be that protected, floating, lifted feeling. The heart lifts, the blades come down and together. I always feel this gentle pull from the center of me, and I'm calling the center my navel. I feel myself lifting to the sky, but at the same time tethered to the universe, to the planet. That the shoulders stay out of the ears, and you are breathing full and deep as you do whatever feels good with your arms. Inhaling and exhaling, and hang out in your mountain. Try to come into mountain as much as you can. All that engagement that I just went through, it just adds so much. And this is a power pose. If you are standing in line, instead of, I guess you could look at your phone and stand in mountain, but I say, you probably already looked at your phone long enough. Stand in mountain, at least, and people watch. That's what I do. I'm so nosy. That's my thing. Inhale and exhale, and I also like to stand in mountain all the time. So do it while you're washing dishes. All right, from the middle, let's come to the front of our space, and then you support. I'm going to send that left leg back, and you take as many steps as you need to find yourself. Oh, I almost fell. Make sure that you are protecting yourself. I'm coming into that crescent lunge, and that might be more accessible to also step forward with that right leg. So if you're like, I don't like to step back, you can also come to the back and step forward with your right leg. You're on railroad tracks. I always do a back pocket and a front pocket check, making sure they're square. Kneecaps up into your thighs, and your legs are not internally or externally rotated. They are in a neutral position. That left heel is back, is up, and you are holding yourself right there below your navel, in front of your tail, in your side of yourself, breathing full and deep. That right knee has a tendency to go towards you want to try to aim it towards the second and third toe. So try not to have it dip towards the big toe or the little toe. Try to have it go more towards the second and third toe. Inhale and exhale, breathing full and deep. If you don't feel that yourself holding, maybe your stance is too wide. Here's where your hands are going to come to your heart if they're not already. We're going to inhale and reach those arms up. So that's the inhale. Exhale then, I want you just to do a little hinge. Inhale, it's not a big move. Exhale, breathing full and deep. Remember, those right toes in front are doing no work. All right, you're going to pause. Here's where we're going to bring those legs together. Doesn't matter what that looks like. Inhale and exhale. Breathe full and deep. Notice how it feels after that stretch. And then I had you do that upper body, so we got the whole body working out. Breathing full and deep. Now, if you want to step forward with your left leg coming to the back of your space and then taking your time to bring that left leg forward using whatever support, or you're back into the front of your space and you're stepping your right leg back. Hopefully I'm not confusing you. The left leg is in front. We're doing that crescent lunge. You're holding yourself right between your back pockets and your front pockets. That's where it's happening on my body. I'm assuming that your clothes are kind of the same. I mean, like how things are made, how the body is. It's not about, no one has to look a certain way because we all have the same stuff. It doesn't matter what you look like because it's all, but then everybody's had different things happen, right? Like you've played softball and so you've hurt your knees and so you got to be really extra careful, or you were a ballerina and your toes are shot. Right? So you're being even more careful. Breathing full and deep. Your hands have come to your heart. And then you're going to reach up. I bet you thought I forgot. And then you're going to reach. Inhale and exhale. Remember, no weight on those back or front toes. As back toes are getting a wonderful stretch. But they are by no means doing hardly any work. They're just getting a nice stretch. Inhale and exhale a few more times. And then you're going to let yourself be in that supported place, however it is to you, whether you bring your hands down and step up, or you just come up into standing. Once again, noticing how you feel. Oh my gosh, all that engagement, holding myself and moving through that stretch. I can feel it. My legs just feel amazing. I hope you can feel that too. So you are receiving. This is where the secret shit goes down, right? When you receive. Let yourself just breathe however it feels good to you. Inhale and exhale. Try to be in your mountain as much as you can. Staying with your breath. We're going to face the long edge. Bring those legs wide. Here's where we're going to externally rotate the right leg to the short edge of your space. And we're going to internally rotate that back leg to come into, we'll start into that warrior two position. So you might have to take mini steps to find that place. And you're still holding yourself right here in between those front and back pockets. So I'm even here, I'm trying to get those front pockets square to the short edge of my space. I'm trying to get those back pockets square to the back edge of my space. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. So we're in another lunge. You are actively externally rotating that front leg. You are internally rotating that back leg. And this is all happening at your hip, at the hip flexor. So you're protecting your knees. Keep pulling them up, both of them up into your thighs. And then reaching your arms wide, maybe with a gentle look over that right arm or not. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. Lift yourself. So here's where you lift yourself with your center. And then that right leg is going to lengthen. I do not want you to hyperextend. I want you then to flip that right palm and come into that. I love this pose. It's like one of my favorites. Reverse triangle. Oh my gosh. Feel that stretch all down that right side. Don't hyperextend either knee. Don't let the toes do any work. Here's where I want you to hinge yourself into triangle. You are moving right here at your center. As you come forward and down into your triangle, use your support. Keep those kneecaps protected. Don't let your toes do any work. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. So if you're holding yourself in your trunk, then your legs are getting this fabulous stretch right here. And you're still doing, what are you still doing? Internally rotating the back leg, externally rotating the front leg, happening at the hip flexor. Inhale and exhale. Lift yourself up. Bring your hands to wherever feel good. Make sure that you don't hurt yourself. Keep those kneecaps protected. Walk those legs back together. However it looks. It doesn't have to look like anything. Inhale and exhale. Breathing full and deep. And then same thing. So just to be while we still have our legs together. So you know what I'm talking about. Externally. Right, you're starting at that hip flexor and you're externally rotating. The knee and the foot are going with it. Internal is the same thing, knee and foot going with it, and you're coming in. And so as you step apart, you are doing that rotation. So you only are going to go as far as your body has been conditioned to go. So if you do a lot of yoga, you're just naturally flexible, you're going to be able to get wider and deeper. If you do a lot of yoga and are not naturally flexible, me, right? I'm not that limber, but I do a lot of yoga, so I can get pretty deep. But if it's not something you do on the regular, it might not be super wide, but it's one of those things where you can find your sweet spot with that internal and external rotation, keeping those kneecaps supported. We hung here in this Warrior 2 for just a few breaths, and if your arms do not feel good reaching wide, you can always bring them to wherever feel good. All right, here's where we lifted. Did we come into a side angle? I don't think we did. I think I had you just from that Warrior 2, and then we lifted, and then we went into that reverse triangle. I definitely remember this part because I love a reverse triangle. Inhale and exhale, and then we hinged. If we did, I'm sorry, we're gonna just keep on going here into this triangle. Inhale and exhale, stay with your breath. It's okay, you do enough yoga, it all washes out. Stay with your breath. Breathing full and deep, navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. Remember that front leg, do not hyperextend those legs, those knees. Lifting yourself up, coming back into that standing posture, whatever that looks like to you. Receiving the sacred stuff goes down as you receive. And then however you want to get to your back. So if you want to come down, hinging to that forward fold to come out to a downward dog for a little downward dog action. If you're like, I'll just come right to child, then do that. You can also come just right to your back and skip all this. We're going to the back. That's where we are headed. So if you don't want to hang a downward dog or not go into a child, then let yourself come down onto your back. And we're just going to spend a few breaths here. Here's where I want you to engage those girdles. Yes, even in this laying down position, that helps to get that low back in that place of support, especially if this aggravates your low back, bringing your feet up. If you keep that pelvis in that place of support, and it's your navel and your pubic bone, I'm trying to get you to always have them in the same plane, and you can do that little check with your thumb and your forefinger, and your thumb rests on your navel, and your forefingers rest on your pubic bone, and you're trying to always pull. That's what that cranking into place is all about. And you're doing that when you're seated, when you're laying down, when you're standing up, but you can really feel it when you're laying down. All right, after a few rocks and circles, make sure those shoulders are coming down out of your ears. You're keeping that neck nice and long to protect that delicate shoulder. Inhale and exhale. That back of the neck is long, chin is tucked. Eventually, whatever you're doing, you're going to bring those feet down. Left foot on the floor, right knee on top of, right foot on top of left knee to come into that reclining pigeon. You are only lifting up and reaching through if it feels good to you. If you would rather just stay with that lengthened down position, and if you do reach up, I would like you to try to come back down. And you can also use a strap or a scarf or a towel here. Inhale and exhale. It doesn't matter which leg you started with, but I started with the right leg is the one that's bent into, and then the left leg is like the support, the press. You're still trying to press both glutes down. Bring that left foot down, or whatever foot you have up. Bring the other foot down and move however feels good. Make sure you protect yourself. And then set yourself up. Same thing, other side. You're not just pressing that left knee away. You're pressing that left hip, that whole left hip, flexor, front pocket and back pocket. You are engaged in all your pockets right now. And then you're lifting. Stay in that engaged position as you come into the fuller expression, and then see if that does not help you get deeper into the stretch. That gets me so deep into the stretch. It's amazing. I see colors. I hear color with with the stretch. Inhale and exhale. I see music. All right, let yourself release. Coming down, resetting, inhaling and exhaling, moving how it feels good. Here's where your arms could come out to the side, and you could just let your knees, I'm going to have them fall to the left. So my heart is staying anchored, that right arm not coming up off the floor, but I'm gently rotating my navel to the left. So I get this nice, wonderful mid-back twist and stretch. Bringing yourself back through center. Remember, you never have to have your feet off the floor. They can always stay on the floor. Same thing, other side. You are letting the heart stay anchored, and then you are gently rotating. And I kind of even jiggle up a little bit onto that hip in order to help stack those hips. So I keep that low back, and I'm always pulling that back body down, lifting that front body. That is always happening, always. Inhale and exhale. Stay with that breath, bringing yourself back through center. Coming into those knees tucked up. You can reach up if it feels good. Do a gentle squeeze, even lift your head. Take a big inhale and then exhale. Release, and it's a gentle release coming into laying on your mat. Just notice how you feel. If you're ready for relaxation, you can just stay right here. Legs extend out from your hips. Just let them naturally rotate however feels good. Arms down by your sides. Tuck your chin a little bit. Close your eyes. Let yourself completely relax. If it's not comfortable to have your legs extended, you can also put a bolster or blocks underneath your knees. If laying down on your back doesn't feel good in any way with your legs, you can always lay in a fetal-like position, or you can come into meditation, which is what I am going to do. I'm going to sit in a meditation here for your relaxation. I will not let you be late for your next thing. Make sure that you move through whatever positions you needed to move through in order then to settle in, and you pull on some socks and sleeves. If you're feeling chilly or have them near you, maybe throw a blanket on you. And then here's where the sacred stuff goes down. This is where the magic is happening. Please don't rush through it. Let yourself be here. your awareness back to your breath, your body. However you're positioned, the breath is full and deep as feels good. You can let it grow as you start to wake up. No matter how you're positioned, you can move however feels good, but you can start with a little twitch of your fingers and your toes, that gentle circling of your wrists and ankles, a bend of your knees and elbows. You can rock and circle if you're still on your back, roll to one side, rest in that fetal-like position. Everyone in whatever position they are, bring your awareness to your navel, that very first place that you started, and you are grateful to yourself for being born and grateful to yourself for doing yoga. So if you're laying down, you press yourself up, not putting any pressure on your limbs. Seated, just make sure that you're comfortable. Hands can come to your heart. And as you move on to the rest of your day and evening, as you pass by the threshold, notice if you pick any of that stuff off you left outside. Maybe it seems lighter, maybe you don't pick it all up, maybe you find a new way to pack, right? All of it, any little bit of effort is rewarded. Take care of yourself. Namaste. Thank you all so much for joining me. All right, you all take care. Stay safe.